Well, this video is the latest in a series that I've put together. I'm putting up a 42 by 80 foot Calhoun structure. It's kind of exciting today because things are starting to happen above ground. In previous videos, I've covered the foundation and prep work, and now we're putting up the legs. We've got one side done. We're going to do the other side, and then on top of that go some round trusses, bracing, and then the cover, which you'll all see in subsequent videos. But this drawing here, this plan, is kind of just shows you what we're doing. So this is a top view. This is a location of all the legs. They're 10 feet apart on center. And then here are the hole patterns for the different kinds of legs. This is a regular leg, this is a corner leg, this is another corner leg. And this is the holes we need to drill for the framing that goes on either side of the garage doors. There's one on each end. Let's take a look at how these are fastened. It's kind of interesting. We'll start with the ones that are already up, and we can go from there.
Pretty good there.
Yep. So, corner post, and these are fastened to the concrete with special anchor bolts that thread right into the concrete. We need to drill a specific size hole. This particular size of anchor is supposed to use a 3/4 inch diameter hole. The hole size is pretty critical. I found that they went in kind of easy at first, and my 3/4 inch bit was slightly oversized, so I ground it down. We got a good fit now. The best way I've found to make sure the holes are drilled straight up and down is to have the legs plumb, and then to just visually align the bit with the leg. They all need to be in a line, of course, and this string here is how we achieve that. So it's looking good. Everything is straight from there on in. Surprisingly solid. I'm told that when it comes time to put the round trusses on, you usually have to loosen these bolts a little bit to get the distance between the legs just right so that the trusses bolt on, and then you tighten it up again. But we'll come across that later. Let's take a quick look at the bolts and how they work. So, as I said, the legs are supported, anchored with these screws that thread right into the concrete. I could have done it a different way. I could have set in some threaded rod by epoxy, but here's what they are. The hole you drill is the size of the body of the thing, and then these flutes cut into the concrete. They hold surprisingly well, and they're very fast too. Notice that overhang of the foot over the concrete? I'm going to explain about that right now. I want to explain a little something. It's a mistake I made. It's not really relevant, but you might be wondering about it. The foot of this leg here, and all of them in fact, overhang the concrete. And technically that's not supposed to be the way it is. It's my fault. Should have made this a little wider. I was only paying attention to the outside. I did want the concrete to stick out a little bit past there. I'm going to be putting on some 1.5 inch wood here, and then the siding's going down, so that'll all be nice and waterproof when I build the walls on the outside of these legs. But like I said, I made a mistake. Should have made the foundation about 1 inch wider. But lucky for me, it doesn't really matter, because I had this foundation designed by an engineer, and he tells me that just 2 of these concrete bolts is enough to hold it securely, given the loading information, engineering information that Calhoun sent him. But I don't really want it to be held just by two of these bolts. So when I'm all done and we've got the structure, the frame all set up. I'm going to be drilling some more holes here. They're kind of close to the edge, and I'm concerned about the concrete popping off because of the pressure of driving these bolts directly into the concrete. So I'm going to be installing some threaded rod into holes that I drill here on each of the legs, and they're going to be anchored with epoxy. Now, this stuff works great. You've seen me use this before. First, when I was anchoring rebar to holes I drilled in the bedrock, and that rebar comes up and it bonds the concrete to the bedrock. I just used this yesterday to anchor an eye bolt to the bedrock, because that first truss that goes up, as you'll see in future videos, needs to be stabilized with ropes before we add other trusses that then bolt to it and stabilize the whole thing. But this epoxy is kind of neat. I could have used it everywhere here for these bolt holes as well as those, but this was faster and it just seemed better for getting the legs up initially. But it's kind of interesting. This technology is great. We have the two parts of the epoxy here, and it's when the gun operates, it pushes both parts into this nozzle, and the nozzle has veins in it which cause the epoxy parts to mix. So by the time it gets to the end of the nozzle, it's fully mixed and it's ready to harden. So I'll just show you how it works. If you look carefully, you can see the epoxy coming out and starting to fill this, and how those little veins work. So it's red in color. See, it's getting mixed there, mixed there, mixed there, and now there it is. That will harden. It varies about how long it takes, but give it a day or two just to be sure. But that's what I'm up to here, and like I said, good for me. This little bit of overhang doesn't matter too much. The process essentially begins with hitching up one of the legs to the tractor. We're using the pallet forks to hoist it in place and set it in position. We've got it all marked out ahead of time with marker, and then it comes time to drill the holes. That's a job for a rotary hammer, and it makes quick work of the job, as you can see. And then it's pretty important to blow out the holes, get all the dust out. It's even more important when you're using epoxy, but it's still valuable to do it here. So we blow the holes, and then we use a 1/2-inch impact wrench to drive the screws and unhitch the top and then onto the next leg. So it's a pretty easy process. It goes pretty fast. I mean, it took less than a morning to put all these up. We'll get the rest up in the later this day. And then it comes time to assembling the round semicircular trusses that will have to go on top here. That's a whole other phase. I'm going to be starting that next and laying out all the hardware to become familiar with it so we know how it all goes together. I still have to find some sort of a crane or a big boom truck or something to lift those trusses in place. Still trying to find the right person for that, but it shouldn't be too difficult. And that's it for this stage. It's finally nice to see some of the structure coming up above ground. It's going to be an exciting summer as we get this project finished. So thanks for watching.